What's up, cool people? I'm Matt Conroy. Welcome back to my vlog. And, I've given a lot of perspectives, ideas, thoughts on various topics, but I realized I haven't necessarily been communicating much about me as a person, about who I am, where I come from, where I'm getting my perspectives, and all that. So I thought maybe I'd just kind of briefly give a synopsis on all that stuff. I know I gave a brief introduction of myself in the first video that I made, but that was a super duper Cliff Notes version of me. I'm gonna kind of extend that a little bit more this time around. So, starting from the top, I was born in Altoona, Pennsylvania, was raised near there until I was about 11. Baptized as an infant, went to church every Sunday, and sometimes even more often than that because my family was pretty heavily involved in the church. Also attended a private Christian school up through that whole time period. But, while I might have been baptized, I don't know if I would say I personally was a Christian through all that. I mean, I was inundated with all sorts of biblical knowledge, influence, all that kind of stuff. So I mean, and certainly from the perspective of, I believed in God. I believed that Jesus was God's son who died on the cross for our sins and all that kind of stuff. In my head, I believed all that, but I don't know if I would have said I was a Christian just yet, looking back on my life. So then, right before I turned 11, my family moved from Altoona to around Philadelphia area, a little bit outside of there. Started going to a public school, went to a totally different church within the same denomination, but a church that had a totally different feel to it. And, I think that, just all of that was certainly eye-opening. Both the church experience and finally being able to dig deeper into my faith and what I believed in, but also just having that different experience of a public school and realizing that what I saw, experienced, encountered in church, not everybody believes that, and not everybody shows it, even when they do believe it. And just that was a pretty eye-opening experience for me. But then, throughout high school and all that kind of stuff, I went through that kind of time period where, there was that slight bit of rebellion that practically every teenager seems to go through, at least in the US these days. It wasn't that I was getting into trouble or anything like that. I just, was feeling like I was being a little too limited, I guess. But anyway, really, my big struggle that I had as a teenager was more so just trying to find myself, trying to figure out who I was. A lot of people at school especially seemed to want to kind of put me in a box. They wanted to find some sort of a label to accurately describe me, but I didn't really fit any of those labels too terribly well. I mean, I was pretty smart and had good grades, so people wanted to call me a nerd because of that, or a geek, or whatever. But at the same time, I'd go to gym class, and with half the stuff, I'd be outperforming the athletes on the various school sports teams. I took Taekwondo for 5 years, most of that during high school, so that certainly had something to do with that. But it was one of those things where I personally just couldn't really figure out what I was supposed to do, I guess. There was all that pressure to try and figure out who I was and what I should pursue for a degree, basically, trying to figure out my life track from there on, which I think is, not necessarily the greatest way to go about trying to figure out your life. Certainly not the best time frame to try and figure out your entire life when there's a whole lot of changes going on with you. But anyway, during that time where I really found myself, where I really felt like I belonged, was in church, specifically at youth group. So anyway, I'm gonna rewind just a bit here. I mentioned earlier that I wouldn't necessarily have said that I was a Christian early in my life. When I would say I became a Christian fully and completely, when, I really started trying to follow the example of Jesus and really tried my best to, you know, know God and trust God in my heart, not just in my head, was pretty much towards the tail end of confirmation class. The same year that my family moved, kind of towards the end of that calendar year, I think, was when I started taking confirmation class, which, if you're not familiar with the concept, is basically it digs a little bit deeper into the foundations of Christian faith, usually involving some specifics for your particular denomination. So it was really after I went through confirmation class, I think that was when I really kind of made my faith my own, and when I would say I really became a Christian fully and completely. So then it was after that I pretty much transitioned right into youth group, because confirmation class was towards the tail end of 6th grade, and youth group started at 7th grade when I went there. So that kind of just transitioned right into that. Started going on a pretty regular basis pretty much from the moment I could. And, not too long after, I was helping out with different things more than just doing the basic showing up and enjoying it. I'd help set up stage stuff and all that, help maybe run the slides during the music and stuff. Before too long, actually right around 9th or 10th grade, I found myself in the youth praise band. Not that I was necessarily the greatest singer. I have an okay singing voice, but I'm not going to say I'm a great singer. Really, more so what it was that, I was, I don't know if you'd call me a hype man, but I was like the ball of energy on stage that would really get into the music and try to help convey the feelings and the emotions of the songs to the crowd, so then they could feel it all the more. But anyway, so I think with church and youth group being where I really found myself, being where I felt like I belonged, that definitely had a big influence on my career decision. Then I came to a point where I realized that I was enjoying it not just because of my own personal, what I was feeling from all of it, but just helping other people connect with God on a more personal level, I think, was what really led me to pursue youth ministry as a career. So then I went to college and studied youth ministry there and got all sorts of different perspectives on faith, life, belief, ministry work, all that kind of stuff. So then after I, went through college and had that eye-opening experience, also, it was one of those things where college, I think, kind of, even more so than previous years in high school and things like that, kind of broke me out of my shell a little bit. I would say I've gotten progressively less shy as I've gone throughout my life. I would still very much say I'm an introvert, because whenever I'm looking to get a break from things, I don't necessarily look to spend time at like a party or hanging out with a lot of people. Maybe a select few friends, but not with a big group of people. I would rather just be at home alone, maybe just playing video games or something by myself. But I've become progressively less shy and maybe a little bit more social over the course of my lifetime, and I think college helped a lot with that. I mean, heck, going to a public high school did as well, but I think college a little more so, because it helped me sort through who I was, what I was passionate about, what I enjoyed doing, and that kind of stuff. After college, went and had the typical struggle to find my way in the career world. Worked a part-time job for a little while. just to have a source of income while I was trying to do that. Got my proverbial foot in the door with an internship, but that was all the way across the country in California. So that was interesting, just getting the different perspective and realizing the different mindsets that people can have just based on locations sometimes. So, yeah, I mean, I certainly think that was a helpful experience, even just to prepare me for what I wanted to do, but also just for that realization of people in different areas having different perspectives just because of where they are, or at least where they were raised. So then I go back home. I work as a youth director for about 6 months. I had hoped it would be longer, but things just kind of didn't work out. So then I, find myself working part-time again to have some income while I search for the next career-based thing. And that's when I find myself here. A little over a year ago, I started this job in Texas, and it's great because it allows me to do the kind of ministry and work that I want to do with the age group that I want to do it with. But, I still can't help having those feelings occasionally where it's like, maybe this isn't ultimately where I'm meant to be. Certainly for now, it's great. And, I'm trying to take advantage of my situation as much as possible, to figure out what's going on next with my life and where I should go, but also to figure out, or to use it as a platform, use my advantageous position to not just sit here on my hands idly. I'm using it to try and, talk about different issues that I see, to talk about various things that I see going on in the world that I think are problems that could use some fixing. Because ultimately, if all we're doing is just sitting on our hands idly, then that's not really helping anybody. And if there's anything I enjoy doing, I've found it helping people is one of those for sure. So anyway, that kind of sums up my life up to this point, and where I'm coming from, what I've gone through. I realized there was probably not too many people asking for this, but if you were looking for a little more insight into me, then there you have it. I certainly haven't given absolutely everything, so if there's something that I didn't cover in this video that you want me to talk about, leave a comment below. I will either respond to it there or make another video about it, because hey, I could use some suggestions for video topics. So hopefully that'll give you a little more of an idea of where I'm coming from when I talk about the things that I talk about. All that being said, I think that's going to do it for this time around. I hope you are all doing well, and I will see you in the next video. Later.